Welcome, whoever listens to this special crisis emergency impasse cup of coffee. Coffee with Dragon. Yours truly, Monday, March 9th, 2020. Coffee with Dragon. This cup of coffee is dedicated to mankind, humanity, my brothers and sisters across the world, and to coming together in fighting the coronavirus. Today, the stock markets severely plunged. Some say even that it was a market crash. I would say indeed that it was. Whether the degree of severity, whether it will be corrected tomorrow morning or during the course of the week, remains to be seen. But nonetheless, let's call it what it is. March 9, 2020 was market crash day. Whether it's going to be a market crash complete if tomorrow follows and the next day and during the whole week, that remains to be seen. Now, of course, there are many causes, of which, of course, myself have much to learn. Truth be told, I don't know all the causes, the X, Y, Z's, and just by mere speculation, based on some level of information, of wisdom, of more general knowledge than an in-depth personal experience, at least in this life with a stock market, we'll have to say that I have more questions at this moment in time than answers. I want to take you back to a point in my life when I was working full time, was preparing to go to university to have a PhD, to was working even overtime. The great financial crisis, also known as the global financial crisis, or the Great Recession actually was called, 2007, 2010. Some say that a lot of people are still recovering from that. I would say myself included. One was working full time, had investments, was investing on a regular basis, was actually making a returned income at one point, and was continuing to invest and did so for a few years on a regular basis from a portion of my salary. Was investing bi-weekly. Not just myself, Adrian H. Dragan, but millions in Canada, United States, and across the world, millennials such as myself, also aspiring to a better life, a better deal, economically, not just economically, but I would say spiritually and physically as well. You need to counterbalance the financial aspect and the economic life with the emotional and the psychological to address our natures, whether on a cultural basis, on a dispositional basis, on an environmental basis, what have you, our own particular nature. And then we have more in common with people whose natures, perhaps not all the time, but in certain instances, are quite similar to ours. And now I'll digress to a quick subject that the urge to love and to be loved, at least in myself as a nature, and if somebody else listened to me, is so deeply ingrained that it throughout my youth, early adulthood, and even now is driving me towards a suicidal type of attitude, a homicidal type of attitude. Well, he's channeling into understanding and love, but of course somehow it might be hard to phrase at certain points, or because of XYZ motives, it's hard for us to say fuck. You know, I just want to be loved. Anyway, back to the Great Recession, financial crisis, 2007, 2010. There was a worker with millions on the battlefield in the front line when my work hours got cut once. A few months later, a second time. Ooh, a few months later, a third time. I remember my worried. My plans changed dramatically in my life, the course of my life. Had another unfortunate incident about 10 years ago. A like black sword event struck me in the head, and I've survived that. And of course, through neuroplasticity and will and love, I've I've recovered. Now, at this point in time, I have to say that I have no stock ownership, I have no investments, and my financial situation is actually precarious, perhaps the worst it has been in my adult life, and have only a few dollars to scrape by the month of March. My bills are paid, my rent is paid, uh, phone bill. Well, that's another that's another issue. And I've been struggling, of course, to find an employment, and of course, from my art to make a living off of my art. And with my artistic projects, I've received zero funds in support via PayPal or from any public or private individual. I've received no help, no support whatsoever to today, March 9, 2020, with any of my endeavors. And that being stated, the stock market today, reflecting in a parallel manner to the panic over the coronavirus, that this panic triggered 2 weeks ago, of course, a big sell off in the markets, from which, of course, there hasn't been a fast recovery. Words such as correction were used, but the fact remains that the markets lost a big percentage points or big percentage points. All other equations, calculations, and speculations aside, the bottom line is that it has been today at least the worst day since, heard somebody say, since in 12 years. So 12 years, of course, we can go to late 2007 or early 2008 when the stock market, of course, began a slide in the negative, in the red, dropping it in value. Right? Because it's a valuation of the stock market calculated by the major indices of the world, such as the Dow Jones, the New York Stock Exchange. Of course, here in Canada, we have the TSX, the Toronto Stock Exchange. And of course, over since 1984, there has been this move towards stock market integration across the world, and it has accelerated, of course. What happened today in the stock markets? Supposedly, for many stock markets, was the worst day since the great financial crisis, aka the Great Recession, as I was telling you the story, my personal story of my work hours being cut 3 times during just a year time, maybe a little bit more than a year, maybe during 15-month period time, let's say from 2008 to early 2009 or something like that. So my work hours being cut 3 times as millions of people's work was cut during those times 3 times for me personally. And then subsequently I've suffered thereafter, and I've worked precariously. I've struggled. The only thing that I could say that was successful in the past 2 years, I would say that is getting into physical shape. Just saw a video, came on the feed of 2 years ago memories when I was 65 pounds overweight. And paradoxically, when you have less money and financially stressful, the junk food, of course, is more accessible because of it costs less, but it harms you more. So we live in this paradoxical type of situations where our freedoms and democracy and financial capitalism has really, I say financial capitalism, but because of the financialization of our system, the system has really, if we're not aware of them, not able to discern and question, has really created these elements of insecurity, of paradoxically of not being healthy for us, just lifestyle or habits or whatever habit, such as of course the junk food that we're fed. Myself, of course, have struggled with it. What is that is a paradox. So like I said, during that great financial crisis when I was a young man with aspirations to go get a PhD in university, and I have to say that my situation growing up was not the same. I grew up in poverty. I grew up struggling with poverty and financial precariousness, and had a tough life, tough childhood, tough early adulthood, tough life. I don't want to compare it to anybody else's, whatever. I'm just saying my perspective, and for XYZ reasons, I'm here still today making this video that I have survived this far without taking my own life, or God forbid, taking another human being's life. Rather be at peace and love and could give, and I'm always open for business, especially in the independent massage therapy. uh, that's a joke. Well, it's a truthful joke. It's kind of like a Freudian slip. You know what I'm saying? And you see, sometimes all you need, or what you need, but you can't express it, is actually feeling another human being. Hopefully, a feeling human being who feels love and feels the air and feels the sunlight, to be touched by, or to touch, and so on and so forth. So, and this came to mind also because of the ongoing panic of people saying that we should be careful not to come in close contact with people or touch them also. And again, paradoxically, and again, I'm advocating and I'm calling, if anybody made it this far without a heart attack 14 minutes in, that you wash your hands with soap regularly when you go out, when you come in, when you go out, wherever you can. Just wash your hands as much as possible and stay hygienic and take baths and wash. And I would even add, stay physically as active as you can. As physically active as you can. Work out, train, exercise. do the 300 workout challenge with yours truly, Adrian H. Dragon. Of course, this video is again gonna be a non-edited one. I'm just flowing, and that's just how I do it. I just don't want to edit nothing. Just if I slip, if I say something that's not in the mood or whatever, that's real life, man. Real life, man. For me, has been a fucking road. Let me tell you, man. Still a millennial young, yes, but sometimes I say, fuck, how I survived all this, man. Shit, and the survivors of XYZ, my brothers and sisters, my LGBTQ family. Like I said, when somebody nominated me to be on some board, pretty useless, worthless, garbage, just meeting and meeting and meeting, and nothing is done. Just gonna say that all I really have is love to give and fucking practical pleasure or physical strength. Plus, we can read a book or two or three. The markets. Back to the markets. Went down quite a lot. I heard that I never heard this before in my life. As following the stocks since a young age, of course. XYZ, I didn't really have anybody close in the family who was in it, or an acquaintance or person who was in it. So all this study or all this research that I done over the years was pretty much on my own, and I read on the stock markets as a child, as a young youth, but I never had somebody in the family, because family was, for me, was and is a bit different on the side, you know. But yeah, but but I've learned a little bit about the stock market, general principles of trading, exchanging. Still got to learn those futures. I know a little bit about it. I couldn't be there screaming in New York about selling and buying. It'd be probably confusing. But nonetheless, what I do know is that I never heard the Toronto Stock Exchange in my life, which is the major stock exchange here in Canada. I never heard the stock exchange be so in the red. And by the way, I'm wearing red because red is my favorite color. Has actually, when I started wearing this morning, I didn't know that the stock market was in the red, such as it has never been since the Great Recession from 2007 2010, and who knows, maybe even the first time that it actually fell by 10%. I heard 10%. Usually it fluctuates around 1%, around half a percentile, quarter of a percent. Sometimes even goes to 1.5, 2.5, 3% plus or minus is a big deal, right? Because that's $3 per each $100 in a day trading. I mean, this in the red, the TSX 10%, 10% of $100. That's $10. 10% of $1,000. That's 100. Of a million, it's 100,000, right? 10 million, that's a million. Of 100 million, that's 10 million. 10% in the red TSX. Never heard such a thing before, right? People are shaking their heads left and right, blaming it, pointing fingers. The men in red, the coronavirus. Sure, there's factors that have, of course, more influence than others. One of them being the coronavirus and the fact that a lot of China has shut down in many ways the manufacturing, the export, import, plus the travel bans, right? Because, of course, international since 1984, the economy has become so much more integrated in terms of the financial system, in terms of this by via the stock exchanges that companies from around the world, the corporations have placed their shares, a share, right, on of the different companies from all the world being traded in the stock markets across the world. So you can buy stocks from corporations and businesses that people have never even seen themselves, right? You can buy from whatever country in Europe or whatever have you, or the Europeans can buy in North America, such as Coca-Cola company. Not that I'm encouraging, no, I limit my soft drink. I'm just saying Coca-Cola because Coca-Cola is still one of the biggest corporations in the world, along with Walmart, along with Apple. But keep in mind, okay, those are American corporations. Has to be also value given to, of course, a lot of the businesses outside the U.S. Big business in Germany, right? Deutschland, big business from the UK, United Kingdom, right? Italy, and to Italy. Italy supposedly understood that it's been the northern part has been quarantined, and now that is shutting down the whole country to travel in and out. So so it's big, 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 big things, big things. Now preparedness. What does that mean? It's something that we haven't. It's unprecedented. We haven't had experience as humanity with perhaps this type of virus before. Some say we have 100 years ago. Some say we haven't, and that situation has changed the integration of the travel. So the stock markets being so in the red, of course, in the past 2 weeks they've been pretty much in the red, but today was a day of falling out. It was a major day of selling out, of selling and being in the red. 10% at TSX. Couldn't believe it. I actually went to check because I said maybe he made a mistake on the radio. I said 10%. No, made a mistake, and indeed, 10% it is. 10% it is. 10% it was today. Of course, now we got algorithms making trades, but we still have the open floors. We still have people involved. Now we could speculate a lot of things, but of course, my premise is that whatever this coronavirus is, this was the major here to turn the stock markets into red. China, a lot of its economy closing down, people closing travel from China, goods and services. Goods, well, services not that much. It's pretty much a commodity based, export based economy, China, I have to say. Sure, I'm not denying there's some services and other issues such as other industries like that, but primarily China has since 1984 just focused on exporting goods, commodities, right? Even some food, quite a lot of food actually. You'd be surprised how, paradoxically, we say the most populated country in the world would need to feed its citizens first, and they do, but yeah, that they wouldn't export as much food, and yet they do export food as well. A lot of fish, some candy, stuff like that. Anyways, and of course, the elements of the trade war, the tariffs as well. We have to take that into account in the past 2 years, right? That Trump administration began. There's like 400 billion, 450 billion still worth of tariffs on Chinese goods. Some of that has been alleviated in 3 months ago, right? 4 months, maybe 5, 6 months ago even. Time passes by fast sometimes. But regardless, here we find ourselves today, November in March 9, 2020. March 9, 2020. Before I proceed, I want to say that in my 300 workout challenge that have begun, I've introduced this fictitious scenario where World War III spawned by a market crash that triggers a global financial collapse that begins on October 31st. If you check in my on my YouTube channel, Adrian H. Dragan, your truly independent athlete, artist, and activist, you see the 300 workout challenge where I do 100 push-ups, 100 squats, 100 hawks. That the scenario that I introduced parallel to this workout was exactly, of course, not a virus and stuff like that, but it was because of a stock market crash that was kind of triggered by the tariffs on China, the economic financial tariffs on the goods that China exports to the United States mostly, and such. And so in this scenario, because I designed a new training program that is not was, because I'm still continuing it and it's serving me well, is designed to be performed anywhere at any time and regardless of external material conditions, meaning regardless of whether you have a gym membership, regardless of whether you have weights to work with, regardless whether you have enough space to work with. It's designed to be in a confined space. 300 workout challenge, 100 push-ups, 100 squats, and 100 hawks. So parallel to this, I've made this scenario where China and North Korea attacks North American West Coast, including Mexico, part of Mexico, northwestern Mexico, California, and British Columbia, of course, Western North America. If you're familiar with North America, if you hear this, probably you are. We have West Coast, we have two oceans, right? We have the Atlantic and we have the Pacific. We're two ocean blessed, if you will. So that being said, the scenario was the this attack happening a few weeks after the stock market crashed, and that triggered a global financial collapse. I even say there, you can check a video I posted in, I think, a few days before Halloween. Just before it, I posted the first video explaining the scenario, and in the fictitious world, I called it the Halloween crash, right? Because October 31st is, of course, Halloween for us, a holiday which I love. And again, first time in NDG here in Montreal, Hawk Island, that they were calling for because of the weather was so bad that they were going to postpone Halloween, and some people actually went and did Halloweening on the 1st of November, which is a major controversy because I gave candy on the 31st to the neighbors left and right, and then again it was 2 days, it was Halloween, so some went on the 31st and some went on the November 1st. It was a big dispute, big argument that never has Halloween been postponed or delayed by a day. Never has this happened. Why is it happening now? And people were discussing back and forth. Some people say, "Oh, well, we've become a bunch of softies, a bunch of whatever. Snow was the word there? Snowflakes, X, Y, Z." So I don't know. Whatever. I said I don't mind having Halloween all days of the year, brothers and sisters. So if you're up to me, it'd be Halloween almost every day. But that's just me. So regardless whether you hold it, I said regardless whether we hold it on November 1st because of safety concerns, and I understand that because of the weather, or October 31st, Halloween is, and perhaps will be still October 31st. So anyway, Halloween crash. So my scenario begins with something similar that happened today. Interestingly enough, like 93 days later, the Halloween crash didn't occur. Of course, that was my scenario, but it seems like it occurred today, March 9th, 2020. Coronavirus. What is it? Where did it come from? How does it pass? How does it transmit it? How do we stop it? All these are questions that are fundamental and that I do not have answers for. But one thing I do know is that this virus does not discriminate. Whether you're a citizen of China, citizen of the United States, citizen of Israel, citizen of Canada, citizen of Romania, citizen of anywhere in the more than 156 countries of the world, of course. Symptoms: fever, cough, shortness of breath. Precautions, solutions: wash hands with soap as much as possible. Sure. They call it sneezing or coughing etiquette. In your elbow, you cough to be far away from people to spread it. So that's another one. Coronavirus, supposedly originating in Wuhan, or this is at least the major consensus. Wuhan, one of the top 7 big cities of China. Millions of people live in that city. I believe it's 3 times the size of Hawk Island, also known as Montreal, where I reside in population terms. 3 times population. Montreal's a big urban city. We are about 3.5 million. Imagine 3 times the size. Huge mega city metropolis. Supposedly at a market, at a open food market, or they have a specific name. Of course, it's we have to also, and that it's not a market, that it's it's an open air market. It's not a supermarket closed stuff. People say it's because the first case originated there and then it spread quickly. Some say different fowl, different animals. The one that I endorse most, or that perhaps subconsciously because of my own biases or fears, or who knows, subconscious, right? It's so deep, so profound. So when you throw a light on it, sometimes we get fears, we get scared, we're moved by it in so many ways that we're not totally aware of. Left, right, north, west, east, south, center, up and down, right? By subconscious forces. But snakes, snakes, snakes. That's what I believe. Now, met somebody a few days ago, and he believes that it was engineered in a biochemical warfare laboratory. I said, a biochemical warfare laboratory? I'm not gonna rule it out. I'm not gonna rule that out. I'm not gonna discard it. I said, listen, it's possible somebody made a mistake. You know, Adrian H. Dragan. You know how many mistakes I made in my life? How hard it is not to live with regret. I made plenty of mistakes. Make mistakes every day. Today I probably made a mistake. Started whispering, God damn this shit. I'm financially stressed. Fucking got $12 to live on the month of March. I was just mumbling, fucking voice just like a madman. you know, stress, fucking no help, no support, no love. That was probably a mistake. It would have been better if I would have done fucking some push-ups or something. Maybe I'll do some after this coffee with Dragan video. You know. Anyways, point is, we make mistakes. Small mistakes, medium mistakes, big mistakes. very small mistakes is like a whole level, right? It's possible that somebody made a big fucking mistake, and that mistake was creating this virus mutation, and somehow it passed on to human beings. Well, it was not supposed to by somebody making a mistake somewhere. I don't know. But I do know that I do not rule it out. And again, I'm calling on my brothers and sisters to not turn into ethnocentrism and blame the Chinese people and xenophobia and all that crap. Gotta come together to fight this virus. Push ups, squats, hugs, hygiene, hygiene, hygiene. Wash your hands with soap, wash your hands with soap, wash your hands with soap. All that. Because now we have more than 100,000 cases and people are dying from it. And it seems to be spreading in just a few days. It can be go for just a few individuals to hundreds, right? Germany, Italy, U.S. now just over this past weekend, just cases were confirmed in New York. I think Saturday night. New York's not far from here. Now south, a few hundred miles. I'm in New York, right? So the world has become since 1984 a more united world, but at the same time we're more. Seems that we have fractioned, at least since the great financial, I call it great financial crisis, the Great Recession, whatever name we want to give it, between 2007 and 2010. You know, so what do? We do what we can. We do that. We wash hands with soap. We stay hygienic, and I would say that we stay as fit as possible and as physically active as possible. Quarantine, I don't know. Quarantine, people are dying. People are effective measure. Maybe, maybe not. Personally, I don't really think so. I don't really think so. But it could be more hygiene than anything else. I would add. So what has happened to the market today? Well, I was in a deep red, a deep plunge. Crashed. You goddamn bet it crashed. People put that blocker, right? What's it called officially? The electronic blocker, or pull the what's it called? The to block trading, right? If it keeps on dropping like that after a certain percentage, the breaker trading halted. 10% minus TSX, Toronto Stock Exchange. What is this? What is this? What is this? I don't have the answers. Shit. I'm dealing with with my own shit. I'm struggling. Independent activist, artist, and athlete. Struggling financially. I've did some achievement in the past year. I've lost more than 65 pounds. I've read a few books. My artistic art projects have been pretty much rejected in many places, unfortunately. But how about stocking on the food? I don't have much stocked. Fuck, I have a few cans. What I can survive a week maybe. If I have to stay in the house, to spread it. How about you stocking on goods? I'm in a deep minus financially, minus 560, minus $10,000 in debt. Bank of Canada announced a rate cut, so my interest goes down by half a percentage point, which is only a few dollars, not even only a few dollars per month. I have to pay interest. But all those few dollars, they're dollars, they add up. So, the situation. Will it continue to drop tomorrow? I would say perhaps. Maybe it's gonna correct, maybe not. Maybe it's gonna drop even more. Maybe we'll hear at 3 o'clock that the market has crashed tomorrow. If not then Wednesday. If not this week. Maybe March 11th. March 16th, 17th, 14th. Well, coronavirus, man. COVID-19. Correlating a stock market panic, severe downturn in the red. Three months after I started the fictitious scenario of a Halloween crash. Well, that the stock market began on Halloween, the downturn, and then it crashed in a few days later, keeping going in the down, until it has to be declared a crash right after losing so much percentage, up to 30, 40%, whatever the case is. TSX lost 10% in a day. Never heard anything like that before in my life. To humanity to come together, be less selfish, more sharing, more loving, more understanding. Rather than closing the borders, it's open them, and millionaires, billionaires share, finance, the world peace, international financial security, global environmental harmony. A cafe with Adrian H. Dragan, independent athlete, activist, and artist. Coronavirus, let's punch it in the face.